Well, Courtney, I'm so excited to be chatting with you. And as we talked about a little bit, this is the place to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm here to learn. We're all here to learn from you today. So thanks so much for speaking with me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on the show, Jason. I'm very excited for this conversation.
Yeah, great. Same here. Same here. So maybe just start off telling folks a little bit about you, sort of your. I mean, you are kind of a hero of mine. So why don't you tell people your origin story? How did you get started with all this?
Yeah. So I am Courtney Clark. I'm the firm director at Zaner Law. I'm very blessed to be running this very successful firm that helps out plaintiffs. But I've been in the legal world for, gosh, I want to say probably about 20 years now. I kind of fell into legal. I was going through a pretty bad breakup. I wouldn't say it was bad. It was good in the long run. And at the time I was working for my ex-fiance's business and his parents. And so I put my resume on monster.com, which in all honesty, I don't even think exists anymore. That's how old I am. And a firm out here in Denver saw that I had a lot of customer service experience and they reached out to me. And so they're a big billboard firm out here in Denver. And I drove downtown for the first time, went and interviewed with the partner and one of the associates. And funny story, I drove on the wrong side of the road because there's a lot of one-way streets
Oh
in
my,
Denver. And, killed that interview, was just myself. And they extended an offer to me same day to come on as a legal assistant. Again, I didn't know what attorneys did. I didn't know anything about PI or insurance. I just knew that they needed someone with customer service experience. And working in PI, for those of you who know, it's very customer service oriented. And spent 5 years at that firm, just crawling my way up that ladder. Went from legal assistant to litigation paralegal, and then eventually lead litigation paralegal, working on some of the firm's biggest cases. Eventually, the attorney I was working with, Mark Harden, left that firm and started Zaner Harden. And he's like, hey, you want to come over, give this a shot? And I was like, okay, established firm, baby firm, but we worked so well together and was really excited for the opportunity and left that billboard firm to come over and work with Kurt Zaner and Mark Harden. And funny story, the partner at the big billboard firm offered me $80,000 to stay.
wow.
Which was about double my salary. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. I really believe in this, future at Zaner Harden. And the rest is history. Spent 12 years at Zaner Harden, took a year off to, go dabble in another firm to see, if the grass was greener on the other side, but other opportunities. And
Sure.
just really my home was with Kurt Zaner at Zaner Law. And when Kurt and Mark decided to go their separate ways and pursue some different avenues, Kurt asked me to come back and run his firm. And I haven't looked back since. It's been so much fun the last 6 months. I finally feel that I'm home and in the position that I'm supposed to be in and really helping other people too with the experience that I have. So that's it.
Amazing.
That's where I am today.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I love that you nailed the interview, even though you didn't quite nail the driving part on the way there.
I could have been a case.
Right.
What could have happened, but thank goodness it didn't.
Exactly. Okay. And so that's really helpful for me. I mean, I knew that you had worked your way up the ranks. I didn't know that part of your origin story included like breaking free of some golden handcuffs that they tried to put on you. That's amazing, and obviously a credit to you. Yeah, that's such a cool story. So I mean, there were some things that I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure there are questions that our listeners would want to know about. But right now, I'm curious, like that switch from the billboard firm to the up and coming firm or the new firm. I mean, that. Why don't you talk to us about that? Because I think there are a lot of folks out there, whether staff members, paralegals, lead paralegals, or attorneys who might be considering a switch like that. What can you tell them about that, both good and bad?
I think it's important to always follow your gut and knowing who you're going to go into business with. I will tell you, I had have had a really good working relationship with Mark, and we made a really good team at that big billboard firm. So taking the risk, going from a very established firm to a newer firm, was it scary? Yes. I had a new baby at home. I
Oh
mean,
my God.
someone offered me double my salary. Wasn't really sure, about benefits. Where were Kurt and Mark going to get their cases? Was there going to be enough work for me? But
Mhm.
meeting them and seeing the excitement and the passion that they had to start this and build a different type of law firm excited me. And so any fear that I had was basically washed away. It was like, okay, these guys are excited. I trust them. They trust me. You're going from big billboard firm to next billboard firm, or if you're wanting to open up your own law office and hang your own shingle, I think you have to be really excited about it and know that it's going to take a lot of hard work. I knew that it was not going to be a 40-hour work week. I knew that it was going to be a 50, 60, but I got to be on the ground to build something phenomenal and, life changing, not only for myself, but for the guys and our clients. So I think you just have to follow your gut and just know it's going to take a lot of hard work, but get excited about it, because anything worth having is hard work.
Yeah. No, I think so. I don't know if you, hopefully for your sake, you're not as much of a self-improvement junkie as I am, but I know that so in my own experience doing new things and that fear that comes up, I feel like I may be more fearful than most or more risk averse than most. But I learned that kind of fear, that basically fear feels a lot like excitement. It's just important that to reframe that. So you must be quite good at that, given that you said no to 80 grand with the baby on.
Yeah, it is. You have to channel that fear into like this energy. And I am a self-improvement junkie, probably more so than you are. I read every book, and
Okay.
I've got a word of the year that I, manifest every year.
Oh, wonderful.
This year's is momentum. It's to see momentum in health and in my career and personal and financial life. So I start the day with that word. So I'm a huge personal development junkie, and you can only get better, right? Like, you don't want to get worse. You want to work to get better.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And I think momentum is an appropriate one for you, given where you are in your career, that you've done so much. And that I think finding the reserves of energy, of motivation, right, to just keep pushing, to keep the momentum going. I mean, am I sort of reading that right? Is that kind of where that's coming from?
Yeah, and to build on top of what we've already built, and like to keep that momentum. Like, I've always, at the firm, we have different taglines for t-shirts, and I've always said next level. Like, we're going the next level. We're leveling up. And for me, it's keeping that momentum with the firm. Like, okay, we've built something great and we love it, but we need to keep building it and keep that momentum. We don't want to get stagnant and we're content with what where we're at. We want to keep that momentum to help more people, to educate more young attorneys and staff so they can continue to do the good, fight the good fight.
I love that. And it reminds me of a conversation I had with an attorney at the TBI Med Legal Conference in San Diego earlier this year, an attorney named Sean Carey, who I think will be a guest soon. He was actually a boxer, a competitive boxer. And we were talking about this need to kind of stay sharp. And he was like, it's when you start to rest on your laurels, that's when the knockout punch that you never saw lands, right?
Yep.
And so I think I'd love to hear, in terms of the firm right now, what I guess what are the things that you're proud of? What are the things that you're proud of building? And then what does next level look like in the context of your work right now?
I'm really proud of our rebrand with moving from Zaner Harding to Zaner Law. We've done a really good job of like refocusing what our brand is And it really is your champion. That is our tagline. Some people think it's cheesy. I think it's powerful because we want to go and be everyone's champion that we represent, whether it's inside the courtroom or outside the courtroom. So I'm really proud of the rebranding, and I'm really proud of my team. So being in operations or running the firm director, your team is really where the heart and soul is. So I'm really proud of our team coming together during the rebrand and kind of the switch to just Zaner Law. And, everyone hunkered together. We understand the vision that we really all have. Kurt has this vision of Zaner Law and your champion and being the best of the best. And we've all bought into that, and we work so well together. So I'm really proud of our team in this season. They've done a great job. They're getting great results for our clients. We're helping so many clients every month with their personal injury. Kind of the next level, the momentum is really building the co-counseling relationships amongst, just nationwide, right? And having a co-counseling relationship with someone in every state is really important, where they can lean on us, we can lean on them. So I really think that is, for quarter 3 and 4, it's really concentrating on our co-counsel relationships and how we can build on that. Because at the end of the day, do I think PI law is going to go away with all the robots and stuff? I mean, who knows? But we're still going to need people to help. And so you need to build on those relationships because it's a saturated industry now, and digital marketing is expensive. And so the more that you can do business to business with other attorneys, the better. So I think that's really what I want to see momentum in. And I would say Kurt would agree, is really building our co-counseling relationships to help more people and help other firms. Got it.
No, there's again a lot to unpack there as well. I think that being the champion for people, to me that really resonates. I believe it. I mean, on the other hand, I'm biased. I have a podcast called The Good Fight, so I'm kind of I'm not above that sort of imagery, but I definitely saw it in my disability practice, right? I mean, and I think that people don't appreciate it unless they have themselves or they know someone who's been in a predicament, in a legal situation where they're either trying to get, in my practice, my former practice, disability benefits, or in your case, trying to get justice for somebody who was wronged. I think these metaphors of fighting champions, right? I have a friend who, I'm forgetting their tagline, but it's like your disability warrior. I mean, when you think about opposing counsel and even some of the judges, like, it's a fight. Like, there's just no way. There's no two ways about it, right?
There isn't, and everyone deserves a champion in their corner, regardless of the sides of the case. And I think now in 2025, the factor that we're not educating individuals in school about insurance policies and how to protect yourself and the resources that you are entitled to, whether it be disability, short-term, long-term. People just aren't armed with the knowledge to even know how to protect themselves. And that is where we come in. And we want to give the power back to our clients and wait a second, this is how you're going to be made whole. This is our goal. I joke with my son's kids all the time. I'm like, do you know what UIM stands for? Do you know what you guys are going to be driving soon? We need to have a real conversation about car insurance. And
wow,
we need to give people, information is power, right? Knowledge is power. And that's also what we do with our clients. We want to educate them. They've been in a horrific car accident. Okay, let's look at your policy and you need to talk to your insurance agent. You're not fully covered and those kinds of things. So you want to give your clients, the knowledge so they can protect themselves in the future.
Yeah. Again, there's just everything you say. I think of a half a dozen ways that that we could keep talking about this. So just on that note, what would you say, even for someone who doesn't have a claim yet or is thinking about filing a claim, what is the knowledge that you would want them to have that that they like that a lot of times people don't know what they don't know, right? So what are the things, I don't know, 2 or 3 things that you would wish everyone knew?
One thing is definitely to look at your insurance policy and make sure that you are fully covered. And so you might not have a claim yet, but knowing what your bodily injury limits are and your UIM limits are huge, because at the end of the day, this is why you have life insurance, right? You're protecting for the what if something
Mhm.
bad happens. And so everyone should be looking at their insurance policies, whether it should be car, life, health insurance, because you want to make sure that you're covered and that, God forbid, let's say you injure someone, that you got coverage to help that individual and someone doesn't personally seek anything, um, or goes after you personally. Another thing I would always say, I tell people, and this is just from life experience, is having a will in place. I don't think we educate individuals enough about a will and what a will does. And the will really is for your family, not for yourself. So I think that's a piece of knowledge I always like to tell clients and friends and family, is that your will is important. Um,
That
and the,
must make you really popular at parties and like at
right?
Thanksgiving, right?
So depressing.
Okay, here.
Just say Courtney's party trick is to talk about a will
All
and really
right.
check your policy limits to make sure you're covered if my kid's in your car. The last thing is when in doubt, call someone, call an attorney. Most attorneys do free consultations. If you're not sure if you have a case or if it makes sense for you to get an attorney involved, just give an office a call. You can give my office a call. We'll tell you and give you some recommendations.
Great. No, I mean, I think that's, I'm just thinking through those things. It's like, even as an attorney, when was the last time I looked over those things, right?
Yeah, have you checked your policy limits?
Well,
Will, Jason.
I know, I know. Okay, so I guess add that to my to-do list. I wondered about this idea of being a champion for your clients. I think what does that look like day to day? I mean, it's funny because I think we tried to schedule this last week, and a couple of our meetings, like when a client matter comes up for you, I totally get it. You're just like, sorry, Jason, not today, right? And so I know that there's this idea of being responsive, obviously, but what in terms of being the champions for your clients, what does that mean, like day to day, say for either for you or other members of your team, whether lawyers or staff?
I always get this question, and I get the question because, you're a champion for an attorney. You're in the courtroom, you're battling the insurance attorney and you're questioning, and they think of trial. For me and for my staff who aren't necessarily in the courtroom, to be that individual's champion, first and foremost, is hearing them out. Because a lot of times these accidents or what they're going through is traumatic. It might not be the worst accident in the world when you're looking at it on paper, but for these individuals, it's turned their life upside down. Maybe, they lost their job because they weren't able to work, or they're just in pain and they can't enjoy their time with their grandkids. So the part of being that champion is really hearing them out and being someone who compassionately cares about them. They're not just another number. They go to the doctor, you get your pain scale, they do a few, touches. Okay, great. Here's your refill, or go to physical therapy. No, we're here to really listen to them. And how are you? How are you doing? What can I do for you? I know this is a horrible experience, but I think, I'm here to advocate for you. So what is it that you need from us? So it's really listening. And I think you see that it's day and night. Some of these bigger firms who, they're just trying to get the case along versus, the more boutique firms my size, we really want to just slow down and hear the client. What are they going through? Because I'll tell you what, they will feel like you're in their corner if you're just listening to them. I can't move mountains. I can't get huge reductions. I can't make the insurance company pay, but I can sit on the phone with a client for 30 minutes and just be that person she can cry to because she wasn't able to do X, Y, and Z. So I really think doing those small little things that my staff does for these clients is a good way to show that we're your champion and we're fighting for you and we're here for you.
It's interesting when you mentioned about just, letting people's voices be heard, listening to people. I listened to a really fascinating seminar about restorative justice earlier this year. The idea that as part of a criminal proceeding, that the victim would actually have the opportunity to confront the person who harmed them, and the presenter was saying, just that process of like having an audit, like having this person listen to you, is like so empowering, and I think I think that it's, in my own experience talking to my own clients, just listening, right? Is even when, as you say, you're constrained by whatever facts of the case. As you said, you can't move mountains, but man, listening to folks is so huge. I guess, are you all training your staff to be good listeners, or do you just happen to find that good listeners find their way to this work, or just kind of people have a knack for it? I mean, how do you make this part of your team culture?
I think naturally people who are drawn to personal injury are good listeners. You have to be compassionate and care deeply to see some of these injuries day in and day out. We do a lot of training on what I call active listening, and you can't be doing 7 things at once while you're talking to someone. If I were sitting here and trying to type up an email, print a resume, and do this podcast, you would not have my full attention, and that wouldn't be fair to you. So for me, when we meet with the staff or we do monthly meetings or when I interview people, I really ask, what is your definition of active listening? If I say active listening, what do you think when I say that? And what comes to your mind? And so really I tell people, listen, you're on the phone with a client. I want your computer screen dark. I want you sitting there. I want you listening to the client. Maybe you're jotting down notes. Don't want you distracted by your cell phone. I want you to sit there and just listen, because the things that you're going to uncover or hear could be really beneficial for demand. Oh, wait a second, she wasn't able to garden. But the only reason why you caught that is because you were actively listening. And so I bought mirrors for everybody at one point in time. And I was like, I want you to look in the mirror before you pick up the phone with a client. They can read your expression through your tone. So I want you to smile, because we want to be a good part of their day. And not like, oh, how are you feeling, Miss Jones? Like, do. No, I don't look in the mirror. I want you to smile. And then I want you to pick up the phone and call them. And I want you to remember that smile, or if you need to look in that mirror again, to check what your face looks like. Because you can feel it through the phone. So we do a lot of exercises like that.
That's such a great idea. And I also think that your clients, just what you said about we want this to be a nice part of their day. Again, I think people just don't realize the extent to which cases like this, or the kind of traumatic accidents that lead, that create cases like this, just how overwhelmed people are. And I felt that my clients oftentimes were like, they're disempowered in the legal system, right? Like, they believe they're disabled. Usually their doctor thinks they're disabled, but Social Security says, no way, you're fine, get back to work. Oftentimes they go to the doctor, and their doctor, like, they're shuttled through, a 5-10 minute appointment, and they feel disempowered there. Like, I guess, is that are those things that you've seen with are those things that you often see with your clients? And is that part of this kind of active listening motivation?
Oh, definitely. I think they feel deflated. I think, they come off of this accident where it wasn't their fault. They were just minding their own business, trying to drop the kid off at school. And then they're rear-ended, and then their life is turned upside down. The insurance company's not out to help them, and they just feel deflated. But what we can do is we can come in and what I tell, because I do all of our initial intakes, what I tell these individuals, like, look, we've got 2 goals here. One goal is we want you to get better. And the second goal is we want to make sure that you're made whole from that fault party's insurance by the end of this. And our goal is to take off all the stress so you can just concentrate on your family and going to the doctor. Like, we're going to take over everything for you. So I think it's a breath of fresh air for them when they're like, okay, someone who knows what they're doing, someone who actually cares. They're calling. My staff is calling every 2 to 3 weeks to check in, especially during that treatment phase. What are you doing for treatment? How are you feeling? Are you back to work? What are the things that you weren't able to do, over Memorial Day weekend? Oh, you weren't able to barbecue because you were stuck in bed for a migraine. And then they just feel seen. They're like, holy cow, I actually mean something to you. And they do. They mean something to us. Like, we care about our clients. And I think most firms care about their clients, but I just want my staff to go the extra mile, because this is a traumatic, and I don't want our clients to feel deflated. I want them to feel empowered that they've got the champion in their corner.
Yeah, I think that, I was surprised at how often, I was surprised initially. Eventually it was like, okay, this is just how it is. But like, I was initially surprised by like how much better I knew my clients, like their issues, like so much better than their doctors, right? It sounds like that's exactly, but that's exactly the kind of situation that you guys are seeing there on the front lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, this is kind of, this is a topic that has come up from time to time with attorneys. You mentioned about, having clients focus on their treatment, and I heard there's a really great practice here in Portland called Courtney Law. They were my previous guests, Chris and Allie, but their firm talks a lot about in that intake meeting with the client, in terms of the client role. Is that they like to tell their clients that they want them to be the hero of their story and not the victim, and that kind of taking charge of their treatment and just making as much progress as they can is a huge part of that. And I just that sort of hero language really caught my attention. Is that something that resonates with you or with how your firm conducts things?
100%, and Kurt would agree. If you're going to trial, where you've got this client who isn't, oh my gosh, poor me, poor me, poor me. No, yes, I was injured. I found the resources. I put in the time and effort. I did the exercises. I took control of my treatment, and because I wanted to get better. I think that just translates so much better to a jury versus, oh, I laid in bed and didn't do anything and, give me millions of dollars or whatever they might be asking for. So we do want to empower because at the end of the day, I tell these intakes, these new clients that call in, you're going to have one opportunity to settle your case. Unfortunately, that's the only way it works in Colorado. The insurance company is not going to pay for your treatment as you go through it. But you've got one opportunity. And guess what? You've got to do your best. You got to get into the doctor, because the goal is we want you to be as good as you were before the accident. And we want you to be better. But that's going to take time and energy and effort. And, you've got to believe in yourself that you can do it. And, you have resources, physicians, lien companies, health insurance, et cetera, to make that happen. So we stress that, like, really the ball's in their court. They have to want to get better, and they have to want to spend the time to get the treatment. And we're here to advocate for them to make sure that they're made whole and compensated for that.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think, as much as you guys are the champions, doing things that the clients can't do for themselves, it's clear that there's also a partnership.
And having that communication to be, okay, I wasn't able to go to the doctor. I don't have the resource. I need help. And then us as attorneys, full disclosure, I'm not an attorney, but my firm, we can get them the resources that they need to get that treatment. But it takes communication to know. You have to communicate with your client to know whether they're treating or not. You can't just sign them up and say, call me in 9 months. No, that's we have different, metrics to check in, because it is a new area for these clients. They don't know what doctors they should be treating with. They don't know, maybe they don't know how to get a referral from their health insurance, or, or that they're responsible for the copay, or maybe they have MedPay that can pay for those copays. Like, you have to be communicating with your clients, so they feel empowered to go in and get the treatment, and they don't feel kind of left alone in the dark. PI is a big world, there's so much that goes into these claims.
That's what I, because my sort of, my world was just disability law, Social Security in particular. And then as I'm learning more and more about personal injury law, it's just vast, right? Because there's all of this in terms of the pre-litigation work, the pre-trial work, and all of the client involvement there, and then trial is a whole other beast, right? And a whole other set of skills. And I mean, it's truly vast, and it's personally, I find it fascinating, because it's just there's so much to learn. And I think on that note, so you said, which I find very hard to believe, but I'll take your word for it, that you've been doing this for about 20 years. Had a couple questions, well, let's start with the first one. What have you, what's something that you learned recently, or either something that you've learned or just something that you're quite excited about, even after these, years of doing this type of work?
I'm really excited. So because I do more of a firm director role, and I'm not just in litigation or just litigation, I get to really see kind of behind the curtain. So learning a lot about SEO and marketing, and all new AI stuff that's coming out. I'm really excited about that. And kind of that next, not chapter, but maybe next page in my book here at the firm is really trying to grow social media and our presence, and learning more about, Google Analytics. And it's a whole new, I took a whole PPC class. I'm maybe I'll dabble in PPC. I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm really excited about that, continuing to learn that, and excited to see where that's going to take the firm, just so we can start helping even more people.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that I don't know, for some people, like, marketing is kind of a dirty word, or advertising is a dirty word, but I think for people, for firms like yourself, for firms like yours, people like yourself, hey, let's get the word out to as many people as possible. That's especially when you think that, you guys are doing something really well. You're providing a really amazing customer experience, client experience. Let's allow you to help as many people as possible, right? So that's very cool. I didn't realize, you mentioning that there's a PPC, like a pay-per-click class. I guess that's probably something I should be doing as well. So I'll add that to my list, along with reviewing my insurance policies.
You're great. Now I have so much stuff to do this week.
Exactly. You're sending me out of here with homework. Let's see. There was something I really wanted to ask you before we got on the call. But yeah, you've talked about this a little bit in terms of having your staff, have their mirrors at their desk to make sure that they're projecting the right energy. But at the same time, there's always this tension, right? Of each of your clients only has one case, right? Whereas you guys, to operate a practice, you have to manage multiple cases. I guess over the years, what have you found are the best kind of, I don't know, not necessarily hacks or something, but just maybe some core principles that allow you to be able to provide that amazing level of attention and service, while also, taking care of enough folks that you guys can keep the lights on.
Yeah. So I think organization is definitely key. And it's what I talk to my staff about a lot, is really being organized. And listen, I get pulled 17 different directions as well. But I think the 40-year-old Courtney, being in the industry for 20 years now, is I write stuff down. I have a notebook. I get it. People want their digital nope, I need to write it down. And every day before the next day, I write down what the big things are that I need to accomplish for the firm. And I want my staff to do this for their cases. What are the top 10 things that you need to get done that's going to move the needle for the 10% of cases that are ready to have the needle moved, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really figuring out what that is and then allowing your time to get pulled 17 different directions, because the reality is you might have this to-do list, but you're going to have a client who's going to have an emergency. So you've got to budget that time during the course of your day, right? So I really time blocking. I think time blocking is great from 8:30 to 10:30 on Mondays. Go through your emails. Make your to-do list. What came in over the weekend? What is the non-negotiables that you can't leave without making sure those things are done and writing those down? But organization. If you're not organized, you're not going to do well in a paralegal role, because you have to keep your life intact, and then you have to keep the attorney's life intact. So we got to be really organized.
Right. Okay. Well, and I think that's probably a superpower all on its own, is like wrangling trial attorneys. So I'm curious about, and I think this is, maybe this picks up a little bit on that thread of like client empowerment, the client getting better, being a hero. Are there certain types of cases that your firm is most interested in now, like a certain type of people that you're really focusing in on helping, or is it more general?
Yeah, so it is more general. We do personal injury, obviously. So the motor vehicle accidents, the slip and falls, the dog bites. What are, I would say, one of our niches are, and something that Kurt really enjoys working on, is he really likes the toxic tort cases. And he also really likes the explosion cases, where he's done very well over the course of the last few years and securing really amazing results for those clients. So while we do general PI cases, we do specialize in the toxic tort claims as well as explosion cases as well. And that's where Kurt focuses a lot of his time on.
Okay, got it. And so I would guess that you were talking earlier about Q3, Q4 pursuing those types of referral relationships. I would guess that specialization is probably a part of that, right? That you guys bring a certain strength in certain practice areas, and you guys can kind of help other attorneys and firms in that regard.
100%. So that's where we come in, is, because Kurt's been so successful and he's such a fantastic attorney. Highly suggest next case you log on and see, because when he's in action, he's just amazing. And he's so theatrical and has so much passion when he is advocating for our clients in trial. It's like watching a movie sometimes. I'm like, holy cow, this guy is really doing what he was called to do.
Wow.
Being brought in on those tougher cases, right? A trucking case, the toxic tort cases. We've gotten brought in on a few explosion cases as well, because that's where Kurt's expertise has just naturally taken him. So really concentrating on getting our name out there as being kind of the specialty firm for those things. Got it.
Well, yeah. And, we were talking a minute ago just about how vast the whole personal injury field is. It seems that specialization is would you say that it's almost a necessity for firms that are at a more of a growth stage?
Absolutely. And I think having a little bit of a, specialization in some of the PI work you're doing is, I don't want to say it's fun, because you're not having fun at someone else's expense, but it keeps you on your toes. It's another thing to learn, right? Like, you can do a motor vehicle accident with your eyes closed when you've been practicing for 20 years. Just like I'm sure you could do a disability or social security claim for a client with your eyes closed because you've, done it so long. But if you decided to take on motor vehicle accidents and be an NBA attorney, you're learning something new, and like, how can you advocate for the client that way? So I think it keeps everything fresh for us. And then really having that niche to like build on top of what Kurt has learned over the last decade in those cases.
Got it. Actually, this is something that I forgot to ask you a little earlier when you were talking about. I'm totally switching gears here. Sorry, but this is interesting to me. But you mentioned about the importance of those client calls, right? And I think that you sort of you mentioned just now about okay, maybe you've done a lot of motor vehicle cases, but you said something about when you were talking about talking to the clients where it's like, okay, maybe it's another motor vehicle case, but you've got to be listening carefully and really giving that client all the time that they're entitled to, all the attention, because you could learn something really valuable that's going to help their case. That if you're not paying attention and you're not giving them that attention, that you're going to miss. So I'm curious, like how often does that happen? That it just by virtue of just your I guess your paralegal or receptionist staff doing a great job, how often do they end up helping cases and really, helping your lawyers get better results?
All the time, because the paralegals are contacting these clients, monthly, every few weeks, and they can catch on to something that maybe not the attorney missed, but maybe they didn't realize, like, oh, wait a second. She's been to the PMR doc for 10 times, but she's not getting better. And the paralegal will take that to the attorney and be like, something's not right here. She's not getting better. Like, we should probably schedule a call with the PMR doc and see, what we're missing. Or, hey, I was talking to Mrs. Jones and she was saying that her father-in-law was living at the house and receiving mail there. I think we might be able to tap into the father-in-law's UIM under resident relative. There might be more, resources of recovery. Or it could be, I was talking to Becky and she started a new job. So I went ahead and asked her if she got new health insurance, and her health insurance has changed. So we probably need to send a letter of rep out to make sure we're covering any basis for subrogation for that. So I think when you're actively listening to these clients and you're hearing them out, and the staff is trained just from experience on what are those buzzwords, then to ask more questions. And you can really find different things. We found resident relative coverage. We've realized that maybe the client treated somewhere that they didn't tell us, and we pull those records, and guess what? It's $20,000 in treatment, which adds value to their claim, but we would have never caught it if we didn't have this conversation. Like, okay, well, tell me more about the physical therapist. Oh, they referred you to this. So, whereas motor vehicle accidents, how you litigate them could probably be pretty consistent. Every case is different. There's different facts for every case. People respond to treatment differently. They're injured differently. So you really just have to listen to your clients and then know what questions to follow up on.
Yeah, really well said. Really well said. So when you talk about every case being different and giving your clients all of those, all of that time and attention and care, I wonder if you have any clients or cases that really stand out for you, or I've heard from a number of attorneys now that there can be a couple of pivotal cases or a couple of even personal experience that just made them realize, hey, this is the work that that I'm meant to do. I wonder if you have anything like that, like either clients that made you realize you really love this, or just times when you felt like, hey, this is exactly what I should be doing.
Yeah, so I have quite a few clients, and clients I have actually stayed friends with over the last decade or so. I think when you spend so much time on the phone or in the courtroom with a client and you learn who they are, who their family is, they stick with you. And so I have this client, her name's Rachel. She had a horrific accident and horrific injuries, and we got a great result for her. And this was probably 9 or 10 years ago. And since then, we keep in touch. It's fun to see our kids are older now, and hers is graduated, and it's hard to let go of those clients because you've seen them at their worst. And then when you are, sorry, I have to get emotional.
Oh my gosh.
When you get a result for them and they hug you and they're like, you guys made this difference and it wouldn't have been possible without you. And we've changed a lot of people's lives by our representation, and to be a part of that and from such a dark time to such a light time, it's just, why wouldn't you want to do this type of law? Like, is it hard? Yes. Do you get angry clients? Yes. Are there lots of deadlines? Yes. But when you're hugging your client and you know you gave your all and now you've changed their life, it's amazing. I would say the only other thing that's equivalent to it is being a brain surgeon and, removing a tumor and seeing this person survive. Like, it's just amazing. And I'm very blessed to be a part of it.
Wow. Well, we're close to time, I think, and I don't think that I can, I don't think anything I can say can really follow that. So, gosh, thank you so much, Courtney. And your firm is obviously doing amazing work, in no small part because of you keeping everyone from the staff to the lawyers in line. If people want to learn more about you or more about the firm, or may have a matter that they could use help with, how do they find you guys?
You can go to zanerlaw.com, and that's ZANER law.com, or you can just call me on my cell, 303-330-1342. I'm pretty much an open book, and we're here to help. And Jason, I appreciate you. This was a lot of fun. This is a great way to kind of end my Friday in the next few hours.
Okay.
Fun. I love this, the good fight. It's great.
Awesome. Well, I love speaking with you always. And I can't, you are definitely out there fighting the good fight for folks. And I appreciate how much you've taught me. And I know your clients appreciate you. So yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.